I've seen things you people wouldn't believe.
Hello everyone. I'm going to be making this video over a period of time, and you won't know that really, but I'll know it, so I'm telling you. I'm transparent like that. It's been 25 years here, the end of January, since I've been on the road, you know, over the road, OTR. I've had my CDL a few years longer. I'll start you out with that story. I was in from the military, and my family, we hauled grain and such from the farm to market. And my uncle said, "Hey boy, you're gonna need a CDL if we're gonna cross state lines," because we lived on a state line. He said the state ain't gonna let us farmers get away with this not having a commercial license anymore. I think this was like 1988. Maybe 89, I don't remember exactly. I just know I was on leave. So he said next year, when this rule's gonna kick in, you're gonna have a license. So hell, I just went on down to the DMV and picked me up a book, and I read it that night. The next day I went back and took the test, and by golly, I was a CDL holder. Boom! I still... I know, because I was in the military and I had military license for all kinds of equipment and such, they just grandfathered me in. No questions asked, more or less. Then I had a CDL. I didn't, like I said, I wasn't going to be using it. I was going back off of leave, but a few years later, that thing came in handy. So I always knew that one day I was either going to be dead on a battlefield or driving a truck. Because when I was a little whippersnapper between 73 and 78, I was out here during the summertime trucking around with my uncle. He owned like 12 trucks or 14 trucks. I don't know how many he owned. I know there was a bunch of trashy old cab overs. And he was like a rhinestone cowboy, right? He had rhinestones in his hat, rhinestones up and down his jeans.
I would have liked him.
Oh, he was flashy. He was a really good guy. I liked him too. He was a big Shriner. But anyway, I ran around with him all the time, and I just loved coming out here and seeing places. Hell, I remember when I was like 12 or 13, he got drunk in Gillies because we was parked out in the parking lot. And they let me come in and drag him out. They gave me a Coca-Cola. There were some boobs in Gillies, let me tell you now. So I slept in that parking lot quite a few times with my uncle because he had kids down in that area. But after I got out of the military and decided, well, there ain't no jobs for a working man, because I did take a couple of tests for the police department, but they didn't call me back to put me to work until like 6 months after I took the test. And I told them by then I done bought a truck, so their money couldn't excite me, right? But I hit the road. It's been a couple of weeks driving for an old boy, and I realized that if he was going to treat me bad and make me drive a trashy truck, hell, I'd just get my own. I'd already kind of ordered one anyway, but he didn't know that. Oh.
Your own trashy truck?
I got my own trashy truck. No heater, no air conditioning. Came with a box of candles to keep warm. I had me a Dalmatian dog. She snuggled really good. Boy, it was so much different. I'm going to try to get some pictures to add to this video of the old-timey truck stops that was out here. Because let me tell you, and I mean, you could ask Shadow Wolf, because he knows, I've eaten in truck stops that was nothing but a ramshackled down house. I mean, for real, a clapboard house with slanty floors, and parking outside for 20 trucks, and the best food in the world, because some some old lady was up in there cooking food for you. I've been in truck stops with showers with green walls, and it wasn't paint, it was mold. I don't even remember back in them days there being TA truck stops. There was Union 76 truck stops. There might have been some TAs. I just don't remember. I know the TAs bought out the Union 76s, like in Franklin, Tennessee, that style of building, that was a Union 76. There was Flying J's, but they were few and far between. And nobody wanted to use Flying J because Flying J had cheated everybody and got hit in a lawsuit because they heated up their fuel.
Don't they still cheat everybody?
They're still cheating everybody again. 25 years later, they're still in trouble, which I find strange being a Utah-based company. But anyway, they was heating up their fuel, so fuel expands when it gets hot, and so you get less actual fuel in your tank. And the government regulates the temperature that it's allowed to be pumped at, so it's a fair playing field for everybody. But Flying J didn't play that game. But anyway, I kind of digressed there. We're talking about the old truck stops, like the one we stayed at in West Virginia that night. And they always had good food and you know, all kinds of different stuff. But in a way, it's a lot better than the uniformity of today's truck stop. But they're not. Back in the day, there was more mom and pops everywhere, and the food was a lot better. But they was called a choke and a puke for a reason. Because a choke and a puke.
That's what you call the truck stop?
Yeah, we're gonna go over to the choke and puke, and we're gonna get some scrub, right? Because you can get the salmonella or something occasionally. But these things happen. She don't know what a choke and a puke is. Ain't she cute? She knows what a portable parking lot is. I taught her what that was. Skateboard, chicken coop.
I still think it should be a pig pen.
I'm not a pig pen. I'm a big daddy. Yes, it should be a pig pen. I agree. But they might get offended. And the trucks that have changed out here, oh my God, they have changed. But in the changing, if you think about it, when I started truck driving, company drivers made 25 cents. You made 25 cents a mile. That's not a lot of money. And sometime along that way, company driver money kind of stagnated. But it stagnated because they started buying company drivers new trucks. Because back then, everybody drove old trashy trucks. But that was when the leasing industry was first coming into play. And it really wasn't for the driver or his amenities. It was just because they was getting a trade-off by getting these trucks and leasing them out and still getting their freight moved. Because there's no liability in these leasing companies. You're paying for the truck, right? So it's a good deal for them. But it did hurt driver pay when that came along. That's just my opinion.
How'd you set your reefer back in the day?
You drug ice up in that sucker, and you put ice in the reefer. I mean, you still set the reefer, but you had to ice a lot of your produce, like lettuce and stuff. It wasn't easy like it is now. Back then, I mean, I guess in 20 years, it'll be even easier than it is now. I plan on being here to find out. So don't get excited and think you're gonna kill me off. All right? I'm gonna traverse 100 years of trucking with you guys because I'm gonna live forever. Like Shadow Wolf. Shadow Wolf's 243 years old. I'm pretty sure he is. Right? He's old. Actually, Shadow Wolf looks exactly like my old deceased uncle. You never know, right? All right. But 25 years ago, there are so many more interstates than there used to be. Back in them days, and you would think, oh look, the early 90s, it's modern history, but it is. But still, they've changed so much. So many new highways, better equipment. I mean, back then we just had no clue what was going to happen. I mean, I remember when I first came out here, day one, I went to the pawn shop and bought me a CB radio. It was so old it still had tubes in it, right? And it was just an old piece of junk. I still got it somewhere at the house. I also got a great big kicking Ranger that I can talk to China with if I want to. But it worked, right? I could get out here and talk trash. I could say shut up stupid like everybody else. And like I said, when I got that CDL, I didn't go to no school or anything, right? They just grandfathered me in. There wasn't no YouTube teachers back then. There wasn't no one to turn to. And I was pulling a flatbed, right? I don't talk to people. I don't ask people questions. I don't say, hey, senor, how do you do that? I just watched people, right? I watched people and learned how to tie down my load from day one. I watched people and to see how they did things. I would try to watch the older guys, hoping that they were older and experienced, and you could usually tell because even in the 90s, the old guys were still the old guys because you can just look at them and tell. They're wore out. So I followed them old guys.
Are you an old guy now?
Now I'm an old guy. I don't got no rhinestones though. And I know I don't look so much like an old guy. I got lucky in that position, like they say, black don't crack, right? Excuse me. So anyway, it was this simple. I went out and bought a truck, right? Just went out and bought a truck. And I never thought, because I didn't know about truck driving school, didn't know anything about it. So I bring my truck home that I had to learn how to drive on the way home. And I start calling carriers, and I'm like, hey, can you tell me the process, sir, about leasing on with your company? And when I would answer their questions, they'd be like, what do you mean you haven't been to school? So school did exist at that time. And I'd be like, I don't know about school. And I've called probably 5 or 6 different flatbed carriers, and they was like, gee, fella, you better go haul some corn. And I'm like, well, I've been hauling corn, but it wasn't over the road and out of state. And I'm like, guys, it's my own truck. Well, persistence will paid off. I called up an old boy, and he was running trucks for Economy Leasing and Great White or somebody. I forgot the other company. It was Cam-Am. They're still around. I forget. But anyway, he said, "Sure, bring it over here. I'll lease you a flatbed to go with that thing, and I'll put you to work." And I did. I went over there and leased on with that guy. He didn't care. He said, "Can you drive?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Oh, you're in the military. Okay, you'll be fine." And I did. I never looked back. It was that simple. Can you drive a truck? Yep, I can drive a truck. Then drive a truck. And if he didn't have no freight I liked, and I don't even know if you can still do this or not, I'd just stick somebody else's signs on the side of my truck, and I'd drive everywhere. Back then, fuel was so cheap that the fuel surcharge actually wasn't paying anything. But then sometime during the Clinton years, it went over $1 and fuel started paying again, the fuel surcharge. I found out that old boy was stealing all of our money. So we had to quit him. Kind of put him out of business when we quit him because all 12 of us quit at the same time. shouldn't be stealing a man's fuel surcharge, even if it is only 4 cents on the gallon or 4 cents on the mile. That ain't very much, but it's my money. So, and here's how simple it was still. I needed a trailer now, right? I went out to Farmer Brown's, who had a trailer sitting in his field since 1954, and I said, "Hey, brother, can you sell me that trailer?" And he said, "Sure, you got $500? Next day, I had a trailer. It had Bias-Ply tires. Do you know what Bias-Ply tires are? They have tubes in them, that's what they have. And Dayton wheels. When a Dayton wheel flies apart, it will cut you in two. So I took that truck and that trailer and my set of trip lease signs, and I ran all over the country. My first trip with that trailer, I blew 8 tires on the way to LA and 8 tires on the way back. I didn't have Bias-Ply tires anymore. I had radials after that. That was a good thing to have. It was. The last 2 tires, I drove all the way from New Mexico back to Kentucky with flats because we were outlaws back then. But when you got the ADD, you're not really an outlaw because you can't sleep anyway. All you do is drive. Having to stop and sleep if you have ADD is like torture and punishment because you can't sleep. It's sad. Another thing that I really miss about old-time trucking is when you rode up at the shipper, gratuities worked. If you was early and they wasn't going to take you, or they went by appointment times, a $20 bill would always get you unloaded. Now people are so ignorant, they don't want that $20 bill. I don't understand it. And saying, "Hey baby, how you doing?" to the girl behind the counter would get you some cheaper food and a discount and unloaded. Flirting went a long way back in the day. Matter of fact, I probably made a couple extra $100,000 being sweet to the people, to the girls that I brokered loads from and stuff. You know, I'd be sweet to them and they'd give me some good loads. So can't nobody tell me sex don't pay. It does, even if you're just, using sex appeal and being sweet. I think we should go back to trying that, drivers.
You need to take showers first, though.
Yes. All right, back to them showers. You couldn't always find a truck stop, right? Sometimes in a good rainstorm, you'd have to get out of your truck with your bar of soap and shower in the rain. It's been done a whole lot of times by a whole lot of drivers. So let me tell you, it's all natural out there in the rain. And crazy stuff could happen back in them days. So I'm running around the country with my 32-foot trailer breaking all the bridge laws in the world. But I didn't know anything about bridge laws, right? And I was down in Texas, untarping a load of lumber. And I was folding up my tarps, right? And I don't know what happened, but it was like I was having an allergic reaction all of a sudden. I was burning all over. And I don't know how it happened, but the next thing I found, I was naked. Naked, standing there beside my truck. And all of a sudden, I heard God speak to me from the direction of the building where I just got my bill signed. It was the lady inside. She said, "There's a water hose over by the edge of the building, truck driver." She didn't even sound surprised that I was naked standing out in the parking lot. I had got fire ants all over me, and when I lifted up them tarps and stuff to carry them, the fire ants fell down in my clothes. And I guess it's kind of like an allergic reaction when they bite me. Maybe it's everybody, I don't know, because I am allergic to bees and stuff. But she didn't even sound excited, which is kind of strange because I was like a big, strapping, strong feller back then, right? I was all swelled up, weightlifting. Maybe she was a lesbian. I don't know. It might be.
I didn't say. I'm sure.
You know, but I was buck naked in the parking lot. I think she had saw so many guys buck naked in the parking lot that got eaten by them fire ants. They just didn't faze her anymore. She was like, "Oh look, it's another day and another naked man." You don't usually get that kind of stuff anymore. We still have fire ants, but now we got gravel. Used to, everything was a dirt parking lot. You would like the truck stop that Star-Lord was at the other night, where they had them big holes that a person could disappear in. There used to be a lot of that back in the day. Some of them CRST lots are still that way, so driver beware over there. So we should talk about lot lizards too. And I'm going to give you my feelings on lot lizards, all right? If you're just a lady wanting to make a buck, I'm not going to consider that human trafficking. I'm going to consider that a choice. I know you're not going to hear anyone else say that. I hear all this stuff about human trafficking. I've never met a lot lizard that was human trafficking, where they bring her in from El Salvador and pimp her out. I meet the housewives that just want to make some extra money because they're getting the check or whatever, and they don't want to go to work. So they know that they can do some lot lizard work, right, and make a free income they don't have to report. That's the truth of the matter, people. All right, back in the day, there was lot lizards everywhere, right? Now, I didn't mess with no lot lizards or anything. I ain't saying I did. I'm just saying they were very entertaining. Very entertaining. If your back was hurt and you needed to get a massage, you could employ a lot lizard to rub your back. You didn't have to have sex with a lot lizard, all right? If you needed your truck cleaned, $20 would get your truck cleaned. They come in, they spruce up the truck, clean it. They'd even do it topless if you so desired. That's just the way things was back in the day. Ontario had some of the best lot lizards. I swear, them girls was not even on drugs. They was just actresses working on the side. You know, we're all pimping ourselves out here. That's all I got to say about lot lizards. Well, yeah, shouldn't talk about that other one. She was horrible. That was when you was on the truck with me. Remember that one lot lizard was on drugs? And she beat the paint off of our door.
She would not leave.
It was a terrible experience. I had to be mean to her.
Yeah, he's nice to him normally. Normally he's like, "No, honey, we don't want none. Thank you anyway." And she just kept coming back again and again and again.
I'll always give them a cigarette and send them on their merry way. Another big change out here is back in the day, our logbook, our hours of service was different. You could run 5 and 5 and 5 and 5, or if you wanted to, all day. It wasn't 100% okay, but nobody would ever give you any trouble about it, because so many drivers would work for 5 hours and sleep for 5 hours. You know, you hit a big city, you go to bed for 5 hours and miss all that traffic and get up and do it again. You could still run out of hours, but you didn't have to. You know, and when they changed that hours of service, it just broke my heart. Because this newer one is dangerous to the truck driver. But it's dangerous, but here's what I don't understand, is things are much safer now on the road. The motoring public is much safer than they was 25 years ago.
Back when Grandma's arm was a car seat.
I don't know what it is. Yeah, maybe it's because Grandma's arm was a car seat. But I mean, all the years you've been with me, we ain't pulled no bodies out of no cars. We ain't held no babies when they died. But back in the day, wrecks were so much more common. And yay for the first responder, but let me tell you, the truck driver on the road is the first responder. If a cop is in trouble, we're going to bail him out. If somebody's on fire, we're going to help them out. Or we used to. And that's something that changed too. Used to, we would stop and we would change that girl's tire. Or we would throw a chain on her axle and drag her up to the off-ramps and work on her car for her. We see them old people out here, we stop and we take them to the gas station and fix them. We fix everybody. Fellow truck driver on the side of the road, we stop and make him a sandwich and sit with him till the tow truck comes. Now where all that changed is these big mega carriers came in and they made rules. They made rules for everything. You know, like parking on the side of the road or moving over in traffic. Saying, you know, that you have to move to the left lane. You know how all these guys now, you'll be hammered down at 65 or 70 and you won't see that Focus up there on the side of the road, 20 feet off the road, and CRST will just jump over in front of you all of a sudden. That's because they have rules that's what they have to do. They don't care if you end up in an accident because of it, because you're behind them. So their company does not care about you. You're in a position of liability if you're behind them. But that's what changed all that stuff. They said that those drivers could not stop and help anyone to save their soul. So these things spread across the industry, because when you leave these big mega carriers and these leasing carriers and you're a new driver and they told you all of these lies and they call them laws or rules or whatever, because people don't listen, right? Then they bring those positions out here into the rest of the truck driving world. And then they share that stuff as God's honest truth because that's the way they were taught. I really think that's what's been the downfall of the trucking industry in my lifetime, is the mega carriers. I know I work for Crete, but I like Crete. Crete don't have a bunch of stupid rules though. They're not like that. But the big training companies is the ones that did it. Another thing that changed it is when I first got into trucking, like I said, I didn't have a CDL, and we hauled corn and beans and wheat to market, right? This was before, like my uncles, right? They would farm all summer, and then they would truck all winter. And that's what ran this country, was farmers in a way. And now farmers don't do that anymore. They stay at home all winter and they don't truck because trucking became too much trouble. Just too much trouble with all the changing rules and everything. Now, back in them days, DOT compliance was totally different than it is now. Because even though we had the DOT and all of these programs and rules and laws, each state still did their own thing, which was scary in a way, because what was illegal in one state may not be illegal in another, or what rule they were enforcing from one to. I mean, some states are still kind of like that with their bridge laws. You know, they're not all the same, and with their length from kingpin to trailer axles. And, you know, Wisconsin's bad about pulling in drivers, that's what I've heard anyway, that, oh, look, you're drinking coffee, you must be a tired driver, you're down for the night. You know, crazy stuff like that. Back in the day, that was much worse. I feel like I'm sinking over here. I'm not losing air pressure. Am I sinking, guys? Another thing, all the years I've been on the road, I could sleep in Compton. I could sleep in downtown New York City, the Bronx, Brooklyn, Watts, Queens. I never felt fear or endangered. Of course, I was always gat strapped, but that didn't have nothing to do with it, right? Because you don't want to be like that. I never felt like I was worried though. I'd get out amongst the people. You know, it'd be in Queens or something, right? And I'm sitting in an alley waiting to deliver a load of onions. I'd get out and go walking. And I never worried about nobody robbing me or jumping me or anything. I don't know why. I mean, maybe because there's, I'm confident. But nowadays, that's changed too in a lot of ways. Now when you're in some places, you do get a little worried that you may not be safe because there's so many crazies on the road. You got to worry about crazies. Matter of fact, there's some crazy truck drivers out here too. But they was out here back then, I believe, also. They need a job too.
You have any good hitchhiker stories?
Oh my God. Yes.
Apparently.
I used to pick up hitchhikers back in the day, right? I picked up some hippies in New Orleans. They were, actually she was cute, but they smelled like pot so heavily. They was going to one of them concerts. They had been to, what is it? Woodstock, like I'm that old. Come on now, girl. Anyway.
On dirt roads.
Yes, I drove on dirt roads backwards. But, no, they'd been to Mardi Gras. And they was going back out to Vegas or somewhere. And I carried them most of the way. They was a trip. Played the guitar and stuff along the way. Then I picked up that one. Some truck driver rolled up beside me and he had a little hottie in his truck, right? And he was like, I'm not going any further. And he asked where I was going. I told him I was going to Laredo. He said, this girl needs to go to San Antonio. You want to drop her off? And I said, well, I'm not leaving until tomorrow. And she was like, well, I don't care. I'll sit in the driver's seat. And I would never believe in coming on to a woman unless she, says, hey, baby, you want some of this stuff? I just don't. I ain't got time for that silliness, and I didn't have time for it back then. So she sat up in the driver's seat all night, and I realized every time I woke up that there was some kind of issue with this woman because she was writing and writing so intently that I knew something was wrong with her. And the next morning I bought her some food and we headed out. And she's sitting over there and she starts whispering and talking and saying, I know what you did. I'm gonna tell on you. I know what you did. And I was like, oh my God, I have got a crazy person here. A bona fide crazy person. And I was like, look, lady, I don't know what your problem is. But that's how people disappear in this world. I said, you need to shut up or you're not going to make it to San Antonio. So anyway, she told me she didn't live in San Antonio. She lived near there, right? I got off on the exit ramp, Country Road, went down it, and she pointed at a driveway going back in the middle of nowhere. And said, I can't get my truck down there. And even if I could, I wouldn't go out there in the middle of nowhere. Don't pick up hitchhikers, people. It's not a good plan. But I'm just saying, this was back in the day. All right, so she tells me if I don't take her down that drive, that she's gonna call the police. They didn't have the word popo back then, I don't believe. She's gonna call the police on me and have me arrested because she's seen what I did. So I said, all right, I can do that. I put that 13 speed in the wind and headed to Laredo. And when I got to Laredo, to the outskirts of Laredo, like 30 miles out, I drug that winch out the truck and threw her down in the ditch and told her to stay there. I said, you walk to Laredo. It was winter time. She wasn't going to burn up. And I'm sure she found another ride. But I learned my lesson there. The time before that, I picked up a girl in a mini skirt with boots up to her thighs and a tube top that was striped in the wintertime with a suitcase up in Syracuse, New York. Now, I didn't know about the titty bar in Syracuse, New York back in the day. If you get a chance to go to that titty bar, you should. But I believe that mixing boobs and alcohol is never a good plan. So go sober or don't go. But anyway, I picked this chick up there, and let me tell you, she was smoking hot, right? I was like, oh my goodness, what's this girl hitchhiking for? And she was good conversation. No problem. I carried that girl halfway across the country. She, like I said, she was nice. We get to where I'm going. She says, can I use your radio? I said, sure. She got up on that radio, started selling professional company. I couldn't believe it. She hadn't been in the truck 1,000 miles. Good conversation. I'm a young man though. She didn't even offer me the goods of her trade. And now I don't got time for the goods for the trade, right? And I'm like, you think I might not have been interested in some of that? She said, no. She said, you look too much like a family man. I guess that was I should have took that compliment, but it kind of felt funny. I wouldn't have took it, but she could have offered it. Just saying, right? Everybody wants to feel needed and wanted out of here, especially back in the old days. And the reason they gave us the CDL is because then truck drivers would go get a DUI in one state. Like a friend of mine got a DUI in October in his big truck. All right. Back in the day, they just go to the next state and get another CDL. I'm sorry, a driver's license. Because you could carry multiple driver's licenses from different states. And I guess that kind of could have been a big deal as far as breaking the law. Breaking the law. Breaking the law. You know what I'm saying? So, in recap, 25 years on the road, I've seen change. I've seen good change and bad change. Done it all, seen it all, and forgot more than I'll probably ever learn again. And the things that I've seen with my eyes can be scary and amazing. I'm sorry this video ran so long, but to condense 25 years into 40 minutes is kind of a travesty of justice. I hope you have 25 years on the road. You can take that as a blessing or a curse. It could go either way. Carry on.